Thank you for choosing to watch Homestead for Life today. Today we are going to be making ham gravy with our ham drippings. So we are going to do this a little bit differently today. So normally you would leave the fat in there. We are going to freeze dry this because there is not a USDA approved gravy canning process. So, or at least home canning process. Of course you can buy it at the grocery store. So we are going to freeze dry it, and to freeze dry it, we've got to get as much of the fat out as we can. So step one would be to refrigerate all of your drippings, and as you can see, we've got a nice healthy layer of fat across the top here. So we're just going to scrape that off, heat up the rest of the drippings again, and make our gravy. Really roasting on fat. This is what's in all the good gravies. Alright, so we are left with our ham drippings minus most of the fat. So let's get this part started on the stove, and then we'll start mixing up the rest. Alright. So while that is cooking, we are going to mix up our flour and our cream. So for that amount of drippings, we need just shy of 1 cup of flour, which I ran out of flour, running out being relative, and had to get into my stockpile, so excuse the Mylar bag. Alright, so a little bit less than 1 cup of flour. And then we're going to need 1 3/4 cups of heavy whipping cream. And we are going to whip these up together to add to our drippings. And we're going to eyeball the 3/4 of a cup. Whip this part up, and then once our drippings are goop again, liquid again, we'll add this to them, and we will whip that all up and add our water. We are also going to add 1 3/4 cups of water to this mixture. We had about 3.5 cups of drippings was the end result on the drippings. Alright, pretty decently mixed. I'm sure I still got lumps in there, but hopefully we'll get them out once we get them in the drippings. Okay, so we've liquefied our drippings again, and now we are gonna mix in our flour and cream, heavy whipping cream mixture. And whisk it all together. And once this is all whisked together, we are going to add in our water. We're going to stir it until it thickens, which may be a little while. It's pretty thin, and we're going to add more water. Alright. Adding our 1 3/4 cups of water. And we whisk. And we whisk. We've been stirring this gravy for about 30 minutes and it's nice and gravy thick and gooey now. So we are gonna go and pour it in our freeze dryer trays and get it in the freezer. All right, so we're gonna split this as best we can between 2 trays, hopefully without spilling too much. Each tray in the medium freeze dryer has a weight limit of 2.5 pounds. And of course you're limited to the top of the tray, especially with liquids. With solids, you can go a little bit over the top of the tray, but you don't have a ton of clearance between racks. So, but I think that's pretty even between the two. So we are going to freeze this, and then we'll freeze dry it. And then we're going to reconstitute some and test it out so you can see how it worked. So, yay, ham gravy. Tastes like gravy. Our ham gravy is in the freezer, frozen solid, so now we're going to get our freeze dryer started so we can start that process. So the first thing we're going to do is hit the start button. And what it's going to do is cool down the vacuum chamber. In about 15 minutes, we're going to take our frozen gravy and throw it in here, and we'll check back then. It's been 20 minutes, so we're going to load our trays into the freeze dryer. Close and lock the door, twist it all the way. We're going to close the drain valve. Hit continue. And it's going to start freezing. Once it freezes down, it's going to start doing a vacuum freeze. It's going to pull a suction out. You won't be able to open the door. And then it starts actually trying to dry and suck the moisture out. The trays will heat up. And as they heat up, the water melts, gets vacuumed against the frozen walls, and that's how the freeze dryer works. So our freeze dryer is done with our gravy. And so we did the touch test to see if it's warm or if there's any cold spots. And I don't know how well you can see how greasy that is, but it is pretty greasy. So even though we took the fat off the top of our stock before we made the gravy, there is so much oil in this that it is going to go rancid fast. So we can put it in some jars, we can put it in a Mylar bag. It is going to have a short shelf life. It's also the last time I freeze dried something that came out this rubbery and not crunchy and powdery. When I put it in the blender to powder it, it ended up turning back into a liquid. It just had too much oil in it. So we are going to chalk freeze-dried gravy up to a fail. Did not work. So unless you've got a magic way to do it with less fat, then I would not waste your time. If you have a solution for this, let me know. I would love to hear it, but this was definitely a failed experiment. It does make you wonder how bad gravy is for you. I knew it wasn't good. I didn't realize it was this bad. Thanks for watching.